This video is going to tell you how to find a good attorney, someone you're comfortable with and someone who has the experience that you need. What you should consider before you hire an attorney, and also what you can expect them to charge. First of all, because we're dealing with immigration, you should always consider an attorney who is a member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. It's the top law association for immigration attorneys in the country. Keeps everybody up to date. They have monthly meetings, so everybody knows everybody. That's very important because when you need help, you can reach out to people. They also have a listserv that other attorneys within their chapter can reach out to their fellow colleagues and ask, I never did this before. How should I handle this? Or how long is that taking? They have wonderful resources, and they're serious about immigration. It costs about $700, $750 a year to become a member. So people who are doing immigration and traffic court and DUIs and PI, personal injury, and all this other stuff, they're not going to join AILA. Because how many law associations can you join? But that's one of the reasons you should only consider someone who is a member of AILA. They take immigration seriously. This is what they do. If you go up on AILA.org, not .com, AILA.org, they have a Find a Lawyer tool. You can also just go on Google and type in AILA, A-I-L-A, AILA, Find a Lawyer. Click on that. It'll take you straight to this page. They only put people on that program who have who've been licensed and in good standing in at least one state. They've been a member of AILA for at least 2 years. They've got liability coverage for up to $100,000 or more. And is there anything else? Oh, and they took at least 9 hours of classes last year on immigration. Lawyers, every year we have to have continuing legal ed classes. Pennsylvania, we need 12. So make sure that whoever you're looking at is a member of AILA. The second way that you might want to consider is to talk to some friends. If you know someone who has had some immigration problems, or you know someone who married a foreigner and was able to get her here, you might want to talk to them. I'm not a big advocate of people discussing their personal immigration issues at work or at church or with a whole bunch of people, because you never know who you're talking to. You never know if somebody has a grudge and you get into a big fight with a neighbor and they decide to call ICE on you because they know you have an immigration problem. Because why? Everybody in the neighborhood knows. So, on the one hand, I don't think you should talk too much about your immigration issues. But on the other hand, it's a very, very helpful way to find one of two things. Find somebody that people don't want. If you talk to someone who they brought their spouse over here and you say, how did that go? I'm looking for an immigration attorney for a friend of mine. They'll say, you know what? He was horrible. Oh my God. He never would answer my phone calls. He was just That's one person you can write off your list. That's somebody you don't want. Tell you should have consultations with at least 2 immigration attorneys. But so maybe 1 or 2 you can find through friends or through somebody who knows somebody who had an immigration issue, and they can give you a name of someone that they liked. Another way that people find attorneys is just through Google. I did this when I was preparing for this video, just to see what would come up. And I Googled immigration attorneys near me, and I found 2 attorneys, neither of whom have I ever heard of. Don't know either of them. I clicked on their websites. One does elder care, doesn't even say anything about immigration. And the other one seems to be focused mainly on high-end employment cases, not deportation defense. Most disturbing, I didn't find myself. That's not good. You know, I remember a few years back I worked for a law firm, and they had somebody that they hired and used all the time to do their search engine optimization stuff. And if you would Google, you know, immigration lawyer and the particular area they were in, they would come up first. They would come up first because they've hired somebody to make sure they come up first. Just because they come up first doesn't mean that they're the best. I'm not saying that's a bad firm. It's not a bad firm. But they're not the best in the city, okay? It depends on what type of work you want to do. So Google it's a method that you can use to find somebody. But if you're going to do that, check out their reviews, their Google reviews, and look carefully at them. You know, especially I always do, whenever I'm trying to look up somebody and see, well, what do the people say about them? I always do it from newest to oldest, because he might have been great 4 years ago, but he's not so hot now, right? So make sure you're checking into reviews. See what, do a little investigating, see what you can find out. One. And last but not least is YouTube. You're on YouTube. You probably follow a number of immigration attorneys. You probably already know that immigration law is federal. So we're allowed to represent people from all over the country. And, you know, it depends on what you're doing. Personally, I think if you're going to have an interview, such as for a marriage case, or naturalization, or an adjustment of status, or asylum for that matter. If you're going to have an interview, or if you're in removal proceedings, you should find somebody close by. I've seen multiple attorneys on YouTube talk about how, you know what, even though you're in a big city, like maybe somebody from Philadelphia is in a big city, but you can hire somebody out in a real small place and they're going to charge you less. Why pay Philly prices when you can get it for less? Good point. Good point. However, like I said, if you're having an interview, if you have to go to court, you want somebody close by. You want somebody who knows the various processes that they use at the district office, who knows the judges, who knows the preferences of this one and that one. Maybe someone who speaks your language natively. So you have to think about more than just money. Because sometimes, even though you have to pay a little bit more, it's worth it to have the expertise that someone has from a particular region. On the other hand, if you're out in some little town where there aren't any immigration attorneys, great, you can use any immigration attorney in the country. You can use me, you can use somebody in New York, you can use somebody wherever you want. So there's some real advantages of hiring somebody that you've seen on YouTube, maybe even just for a consultation, because you've seen them, you've been watching them, you have a feeling of what they're like. So utilize that if you really don't have any other choices. If you do have other choices, my advice would be use somebody local. So now you've decided that you're going to get a consultation with somebody. What should they charge? Well, I have found throughout my practice that different attorneys charge different things. And again, just because they're charging more doesn't mean they're better. For instance, I charge $150 per half hour for a consultation. And I remind them that that means if you're going to have this consultation go longer and longer and longer, now you're looking at $300, not $150. It's $150 per half hour. But I also do a credit. If you hire me within 30 days, that $150 or $300 that you paid for the consultation counts as a credit towards the retainer. Most attorneys that charge a consultation fee, that's what they do. They make it a credit. Now, some law firms don't charge consultation fee at all. That has always meant to me one of two things. Either they're brand new and they're trying to get as many clients as possible, or two, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. There's a reason for personal injury that they don't charge consultation fees, because there's going to be if some case comes walking in, you got hit by a bus, some big case comes walking in, that lawyer's going to make a lot of money. So they want as many people coming in as possible, right? But with immigration lawyers, we don't make a lot of money. We have a lot of cases. You don't have one big case. You have a lot of little cases. And so one case is worth $2,000 and another case is worth $4,000. Another case is, $650 to extend something. We don't make that much money. So the consultation is very important. If they're not charging one, to me, it says they don't really know what they're doing, or they're really new and they're just trying to get clients. I did work for a firm. It's the same one I mentioned earlier that came up, first on the Google search. They don't charge a consultation fee. And I had a 1-year contract with them. I tried my damnedest to get them to start charging a consultation fee like a grown-up law firm. And they absolutely refused to do it. But I'll tell you another thing. The consultations were like 15 minutes long. All they wanted was to have somebody come in and sign on the dotted line. That's not how I do my consultations. I try to be as thorough as I can be. So now you're at the consultation. I'm sure you've come with a whole list of questions that you have, but you need to be alert to certain things. Look for red flags. The biggest red flag for me, if he guarantees, I've been doing this for years, I'm telling you, you got an easy case. Run, because first of all, he's not the one making the decision, so he can't guarantee you anything. And number two, with this administration, nobody knows who's on first. Nobody knows what's, this is a day-to-day changes are happening with this Trump administration. So, nobody can give you a guarantee with this administration. If he rushes through details, a lot of times you might have questions about, well, how does this work? What do you need me to do? What documents do you need me to bring in? How long is this going to take? If he's vague or rushes through things, I wouldn't hire him. Because look, if that's what he's like when he's at the consultation and he's actually interested in getting you as a client, imagine how he's going to behave when you've already signed the contract, you've already paid them the first $1,000 up front. You think he's going to be any better? I think he's going to be worse. Just saying. Speaking of which, you should also ask who is going to be working on your case. Because I think a lot of times people think, well, I hired an attorney and I want the attorney to do the work. Okay, well, that doesn't usually happen with, fairly, even medium-sized immigration firms. They have paras and the paras work the cases. However, it is the attorney who supervises everything. The attorney has to sign off on everything. So I wouldn't be too afraid or worried or think there's something wrong if that attorney isn't the one that's going to be actually doing the work. Because he's busy in court. He's busy, reviewing his brief that he had to write up. I mean, he's doing other things, but he is supervising the case. So ask if you can meet the person while you're there. If you're in the office, well, if you're doing it virtually, obviously you can. But before you sign anything, you certainly can say, I'd like to talk to whoever is going to be the person, the paralegal handling my case, and see how you get along with that person. That should not be a problem. Because, think of it this way. I'm I don't know if you can tell. I hope not. But my house is in complete disarray because I had a flood on the first floor, and we're about to begin reconstructing. We have to. They knocked out 2 feet of my drywall down to the floor. So I have a bunch of stuff that the guy was just over here the other day. So we're setting up. It looks like it's going to be in about 2 weeks. They're going to start. But it's not going to be the guy that I hired. He's got his crew. He's got his guys. They're going to come in and do the work. You wouldn't expect the contractor to be on the job every day. But he better be coming over and checking things. Of course. He's going to have his plasterer do this and his painter do that. Same thing with attorneys. At least immigration attorneys, okay? They use paralegals, or they're sometimes called legal assistants. They use them to pull the cases together. However, the attorney should always be available to speak to you. However, if you're calling him every day because you just have one more question, guess what? He's not going to be available to you pretty soon. Which leads me to another thing I wanted to mention to you. Ask them at the consultation what's their way of communicating. Usually with attorneys, they want to do it through email. And that's because they want a written record. They want a record of what they said to you and what you said back to them. Not big on texts, generally speaking. Don't appreciate phone calls at 9:30 at night unless somebody's been picked up. They've raided the house, they've raided the job, and now this guy he's in ICE custody. Different story. If it's an emergency, the attorney should be available. But your idea of an emergency and my idea of an emergency can be two different things. I have found since I've been working virtually, I stopped working at my office 2019. But one of the things that I have found is that my clients seem to think that they could just call me whenever. They're calling me Saturday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning saying, "Oh, I'm sorry to call you so early, but I just had another question." Or, "Did you see that we got this receipt or that?" It's 9 to 5. 9 to 5, okay? But, again, ask at the consultation, how's communication going to be? And see what they say. Because you want somebody, if you are somebody that you want to have your attorney available to you at all times, or at least a paralegal, then you want to know up front if that's not going to be something that they can do. If you're somebody who prefers texts and hates email, and this lawyer will only deal with email and will not respond. In fact, I actually saw somebody that put up on their fee agreement that they will not respond to texts. I thought that was funny. And I thought, maybe I should put that in my fee agreement. Okay. So, generally speaking, this is another this is another caveat that if they don't do this, walk away. Lawyers do one of two things when you're going to hire them. They either give you a fee agreement which lays out exactly how much you're going to have to pay and when, or they write you a letter of engagement. That's kind of more old school, I think, to be honest with you. But if they don't offer you either one, they don't put it down in writing and he has to sign it and you have to sign it, and they don't do that, that's very fishy. That's very fishy. Do not sign the fee agreement without reading it. I have my fee agreement in both English and Spanish. And I tell them, especially if it's a couple, I tell them I want you to sit down and read this. Don't sign it until you've read it. And then I would get up. This is when I had an office. I would get up and go out to the front, go to the paralegal room, whatever. Give them some time to sit and read it. Because I don't want to hear, oh, well, I didn't realize that. I don't want to hear that. We're laying it all out, and now is the time. This is the moment before you sign anything to get your questions answered. Okay? For instance, I put something in about, this is a flat fee agreement, which it almost always is. It's almost always a flat fee agreement because we know how long a marriage case takes. Okay? We know how long an asylum case takes. I used to do deportation sometimes hourly. I was doing it flat, and then I felt like I wasn't earning enough money for the work I was doing, so then I switched it to hourly. Clients hated hourly, and that was a problem because they stopped calling me. Because any time you called, that got counted as 1/10 of an hour. And if it was at $300 an hour, that's $30 for a phone call. You talk to me for 10, 12 minutes, that's now $60 for the phone call. They hate it hourly. So I basically do flat. But I do have a paragraph at the top of the second page that says there might be times when I have to do things hourly, things that I wasn't expecting. For instance, I might have somebody who didn't tell me that he had a conviction, and we need to send in a certified copy of the disposition of that conviction. I live about 15 minutes from the county seat, so if this happened to be done in my county, I can just drive up there, ask for it, pay for it. It's not much, $12, $15, and then drive back home with it. But I'm going to charge for that. Should I charge flat or should I charge hourly? I'm going to charge hourly. But once I'm there, once I hit the parking lot of the courthouse, the clock starts ticking. And it might take me 30 minutes. Or I might have to wait an extra 15 minutes just to get through the line because I just happened to arrive at the same time the frickin' jury comes in and everybody has to be checked, and it's just taking longer. So I do it hourly. That's fair to me and that's fair to them. I'm not overcharging my clients, but I'm not cheating myself because my time is valuable too. So anyway, that's, I always tell people you have to read the fee agreement. Don't sit there and say, I'll read it at the house. Well, you've already signed it, okay? And that's good life advice. Don't sign any contract. I don't care if it's with T-Mobile. Don't sign any contract without reading it. Drives people crazy because they're not expecting people to read things. I read every contract, and I just look at them and say, I'm a lawyer. And they're like, oh, okay. They just know because lawyers read shit. That's what we're supposed to do. I don't want anybody coming back to me later saying, "Well, I didn't know that." That's right there on page 3 of the fee agreement that you signed. Okay. Oh, another red flag is if he gives you any kind of attitude. If he's rushing you through and he really, really wants you to sign off on this, and if he kind of rolls his eyes at you or saying, you're so indecisive, do you want me for an attorney or don't you? Because I've got someplace to be. If he gives you any kind of flippant attitude like that, walk out. Say, oh, I'll be calling you. Take the fee agreement with you. I need to discuss this with my family. And walk the hell out. Because if that's what he's like when he wants you, I just said this about something else. If that's what he's like when he's hoping to get you as a client, he's not going to get better. Trust me. Now we're getting down to, so what does an immigration attorney cost? Like I said, I mentioned it earlier, it depends on where you are. Big cities like Houston, Miami, LA, New York, they're going to charge more than maybe a smaller city. Raleigh, right? Raleigh, North Carolina. So that's something to think about. It depends on what type of case you have. Some cases are very simple and easy. And some cases, having done this for many years, I know, generally speaking, after even just 30 minutes with somebody, which clients are going to be a pain in the butt and which clients are going to cooperate and do what I ask them to do when I ask them to do it. That might increase how much the fee is, depending on, if the lawyer thinks this person's going to be, they up the price. And also something you have to take into account is the reputation of the firm. The reputation of the firm is important. Because if it's Joe Blow who just started versus Clasco in Philadelphia, if it's a big firm, they're going to charge more. Because they can. Their reputation is worth it. But you're going to get higher quality work as well. That's a given. So, now, actual prices. This is hard to say. Adjustment of status. I saw a calculation of $2,000 to $5,000. I'm like, $2,000 for an adjustment of status? I'm way higher than that. But then I saw the range to $5,000. It's like, oh, okay. And why am I higher than $2,000 for adjustment? Because my adjustment, I'm thinking marriage case, right? So it's not just the adjustment. It's the I-130. It's the interview. It's the adjustment of status. It's also the interview for that. Normally they're the same, but not always. So anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000. Now this is May of 2025. Those prices can be different a year from now. In fact, I would not be the least bit surprised if most immigration attorneys are already upping their fees because of all the harassment that the Trump administration is going to give us. I'll make you a bet. They're at least talking about it with their fellow partners, that they're going to raise their rates. Asylum. This doesn't surprise me. Asylum, $5,000 to $10,000. That doesn't surprise me at all. I've done a lot of asylum, but it was mainly when I was working, for those couple of years at the nonprofit. Because I would quote a fee. I'm going back like 5-6 years. I would quote $3,000 for asylum, and people would just walk away because they can't handle it. They can't do it. It was too much for them. The nonprofit, of course, charges next to nothing because they're accredited reps and they're dealing with low-income people. But if that's what your case is and you need to file for asylum, Don't be surprised if the low end is $5,000 today. Anywhere up to 10, because you might need a medical exam, you might need an expert witness about your country. There's so many things you're going to need for that case. Expect it to be anywhere between 5 and 10,000. Deportation defense, 7,500 to 20 grand. What I do, I charge so much to begin. I charge like $1,000 to begin. $1,000 for every hearing that we have to go to, and that means even if it's just telephonically, $1,000. And then I include whatever else I'm doing, because if all I'm doing is asking for voluntary departure, that's going to be $2,000 and that's it. Because he's going to end up leaving, and that's going to be the end of it. But let's say he's got cancellation of removal in his pocket. I'm going to charge him for the cancellation of removal. That's probably I didn't check it, but that's probably about $6,000 right there. So it's the fees for court, but it's also the fees for whatever we're doing. Are we trying to get asylum for you? Are we doing a marriage case for you? That's how we're going to keep you here. You have cancellation of removal. I mean, it depends on what our defenses are, what I'm going to charge for. And that all gets included. That should be laid out in the fee agreement. Okay? Make sure you have a firm understanding of what this attorney is going to charge you. And then if I were you, I would go home and sleep on it. Hopefully you went with somebody to the attorney so that you could discuss it with them. I would think about it. Don't rush into it. Because once you've signed it and you've, paid them that first initial fee, it's hard to get that money back. In fact, it's all over my fee agreement that there are no reimbursements. I never reimburse. Now, I'll reimburse if you've given me filing fees, and then you say, you know what, I don't want you to do this. I want my money back. I can reimburse the filing fees, but not the fees for my time, because I already did what I was supposed to do. Don't expect to get reimbursed. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted you. So I hope that this is helpful. In fact, my very last thing I have here, remember, a good lawyer will tell you hard truths, not just what you want to hear. And that's true. That's what I try to do with this channel all the time. Not trying to make you uncomfortable, but it's a sign of integrity that somebody is going to say to you, look, this is what your chances are. Again, for the umpteenth time, if they guarantee you something, don't sign with them. It's probably the number one question I'm asked all the time at a consultation. What do you think my chances are? 50-50? 75-25? What do you think? What do you think? Well, sometimes we know. Sometimes I could say it's a pretty good case. Pretty strong case. If you have the proof that you say you have of this valid marriage, okay. But if I find out that, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that, I got arrested a few months ago. According to what you have told me, this is what I think your chances are. That's usually the legalese that I use, because I don't want somebody coming back to me later saying, you said this is going to be easy. I said, yeah, I didn't know Trump was getting reelected. I mean, anyway, I always say, well, my crystal ball is broken. All right, I'm sorry. I should probably cut off half the end of this. But if you got some value out of this, please hit like. Please subscribe. I'm looking for subscribers. I only have a couple right now. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.